This conference will now be recorded.
Right. Today I'll take the class for very less time. Okay. Right. So yesterday we have seen how to implement the stub what create, and we have seen how to insert a record into the how to insert a new product by using stub called as what create. Now in continuation to that, let's see updating an existing record. So if you go to our project SCGW. Okay, so this is the project ZEPM underscore project, and this project has got some what properties. It has got some 10 properties: product ID, type code, category, up to currency code. So we have implemented all the steps except what update. Okay, so let me open this project in editable mode. So as part of service implementation under our entity set, we are having what five steps. Okay, what is the stub we need to implement now? Update. Say we have seen how to implement create. Now let me go for what update. So I want to update an existing product. So I should know how to update. So before implementing this, I have to analyze what is the logic I need to write, whether I need to update it manually or whether we have any dedicated function module for that. So since this is related to EPM products, in the last four implementations, we are using what some standard BAPI function model. So similarly for update also, we have one function module. If I go to function builder, let me open that BAPI underscore EPM underscore what product underscore change BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore change. Right. So this is a function model we need to use for updating. So if you observe this signature, it has got one mandatory parameter. It has got one mandatory parameter where we need to enter what product ID. We need to prepare a work area which is holding what product ID. Okay, so we have to pass the product ID, and you can see there are some optional importing parameters. One parameter is what header data type so and so structure. It has got some 18 fields. Then already we know in our ABAP also, whenever you are working with the change BAPIS, whenever you are working with the change BAPIS, you will have one parameter ending with what X. You'll have some parameters ending with what X. Those parameters we call it as what update flag parameters. Okay, so these parameters will indicate what are the fields which we need to update. So they act as what indicators. Okay, so this parameter will carry the actual data which needs to be modified, and this parameter will carry the information of the fields which needs to be updated. Okay, so I repeat, this parameter will carry the modified data, and this parameter will act as indicators. Okay, and in this particular parameter we need to set the fields which needs to be modified. So if you see here, if you see the second parameter, it contains these fields: character of 10, character of 240 to 55, something like that. If you observe this parameter, except product ID, the rest of the parameters are what character of 1. So what is the key property in our entity? Product ID. So we never modify what key properties. We always modify what non-key properties. So except product ID, I should able to modify what other properties. So this is the signature of my what BAPI function module. There are no other mandatory parameters. So now let us implement this tab here. I'll right click on this. I'll say go to ABAP workbench. Okay, what is the method it is showing? Operation product set underscore update underscore entity has not yet been implemented. Continue. Right, so it has taken the control to our data provider extension class. Let me open it in editable mode. So as part of this class, we have many methods. As of now, we are concerned with the method product set underscore update underscore entity. So select this particular method and redefine the method. So I'll click on what redefine button. So we need to write the logic where we need to modify the data. We need to modify the existing product. Okay. So first of all, we should know what is the parameter which is going to carry that particular input values. So if you observe our normal update statement, how do you update any database entry? You will say update database table. Okay, update database table, set some field one equal to some value. Okay, and then you'll say what field 2 equal to value 2, like this n number of fields you'll modify, and generally you'll compare with what key field, where key field equal to what so and so value. Understood? So if you compare with the key field, if you compare with the key field, you can guarantee that a specific record will be updated. I can also compare with non-key fields, but if you compare with non-key fields, there might be many entries satisfying that condition. So if you want to modify a specific record, we have to compare with what key field. So in this context also, what is the key property? Product ID. So this is the way you what generally update the record. So this updated fields information, we are going to pass it as what input values. So we should know what is a parameter which is going to carry that particular input value. So yesterday, as part of the URL, we are giving what the HTTP request. The HTTP request content, it is holding the information of what new record, new product ID, and other non-key properties. Similarly, here also, when you're updating, you have to pass the product ID which needs to be modified, as well as the other fields which needs to be modified. So that information, what are the input values we are going to pass as part of the URL, it is going to be read by which parameter here. Yesterday we have seen we have conserved one parameter. What is that? IO underscore data provider, which is an object of what so and so interface. And in this interface, yesterday we have seen the signature. What is the method you have to use? Read underscore entry underscore data. So this is a parameter which is going to carry the HTTP request content which is sent through what URL. I repeat, this is the method which is going to carry okay the HTTP request content which is sent as part of the request URL. Okay, so what is the signature of this method? It is returning something what any. Here any in the sense what request content we are going to send. We are going to send our entity content, the key property value and other non-key properties and their values. Okay, so it is going to return any means it is going to return what our entity information now. So keeping this method in mind, this is the interface. Okay. So first of all, so I understood that that method is going to return my any in the sense what here it is going to return our entity here. So I'll say read the HTTP what request content. Let me declare a work area data w underscore entity uh, type data w underscore what entity. What is the parameter which is referring to our entity? You can see here there is a parameter er underscore entity. It is of type what model product class. Inside this we have ts underscore product. If I double click on this ts underscore product, if you see the declaration, it contains all our entity properties, 10 properties. So let me refer to this parameter. What is it? er underscore entity. So like er underscore entity. Done. Now let us call that method. What is that object here? What is that object parameter? IO underscore data underscore provider. So I'll go to pattern. IO underscore data underscore provider is the object. This is the interface. And the method is what? Only one method is available. Read underscore entry underscore data. So it might raise some exceptions. That's why it is proposing what? Try and catch block. So I'll just handle that. It is going to export me the entity information. I'm going to receive in my local work area W underscore what? Entity. None. Right. So I'm going to get the what? HTTP request content inside my local work area what? W underscore what? Entity. Now I'll say if W underscore entity is not initial, if it is not blank, okay, if it is not blank, yeah, I need to what is the signature of my function module? It is expecting one mandatory parameter of type work area. This is a work area only. If I double click on this, yes, it's a work area which contains one field what? Product underscore ID. So even though it contains only one field, I need to prepare the work area of so and so type. So here, let me prepare the work area. So here I'll say prepare work area containing what? Product ID, which whose data needs to be what? Updated. Whose data needs to be updated. So let me declare the work area data w underscore product underscore ID type. Let me copy it once again. So in this function model, what is the work area to prepare? BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore ID. BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore ID. Done. So W underscore product underscore ID hyphen what is the field in that? What is the field in that? Product underscore ID. Okay, so I'll just take this product underscore ID is equal to understood. The request content is coming through which parameter? W underscore entity, which is referring to our entity now. So if you double click on this, W underscore entity is like ER underscore entity. ER underscore entity is referring to our entity, which contains what? Which contains what? All the 10 properties. What is one of the product property here? Product ID. Product. These are all my entity properties. So let me refer to this. Okay, so here I'll say what is that work area? W underscore entity hyphen product ID. Understood? So what are the request content we are going to send along with the URL? It is received in my local work area W underscore entity which contains a product ID. That product ID I am assigning it to my work area field. So my input parameter is what? Ready. Done. Then what else? Okay, the mandatory parameter is ready. Apart from the mandatory parameter, there are two optional parameters. What is that? I need to prepare a work area of type what? Product header. So this is the parameter which is going to carry the modified data. So what is the next step now? Prepare work area. Prepare work area containing what? Modified product header data. Containing modified product header data. So I'll say data W underscore what? Header data W underscore header data type this one, type BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore header. Then I'll say W underscore header data hyphen. What are the fields in this? It has got some 18 fields. What are the fields? Product underscore ID, type underscore code, category, name, description, so on so. Okay, type underscore code, category, name and description. So here I'll say product underscore ID is equal to what is that input parameter where we are receiving W underscore what? Entity hyphen, what is the entity property name? Product ID. Okay, then W underscore header data hyphen name equal to, assume that I'm going to modify only two fields. What are they? Name and what? Description. So I'll say W underscore entity hyphen what? Name. Then W underscore header data, W underscore header data hyphen what? Description equal to W underscore entity hyphen, sorry, W underscore entity hyphen what? Description. Done. Okay. 1 second, please. Just hold on. 1 second. Yeah, where we are. So what I'm assuming here is, out of 10 entity properties, I will allow the user to modify only what? Two fields. That's the reason I'm writing the logic accordingly. My business requirement is actually from where the user is going to modify the value from the front end system. This is only the back end system. So in the front end system, what happens? You'll develop an interface something like this. Okay, where the user will enter what? The user will enter what? Product ID. The user will enter the product ID. Okay, you will enter the existing product ID and you will click on some button or you press enter. So what should happen is, it has to show me the rest of the product details. It has to retrieve that particular product details from our OData service. Through our OData service, it has to display the information related to that particular product. It has to display the information related to that particular existing product. Okay, so what are the fields in this? Assume this is what? Type code. Assume this is category. Assume this is name. Assume this is description. Okay, assume this is supplier ID, blah blah blah. Like this, many fields are there. So we are going to display the data, but only this name and description I'll keep it in enabled state, and the rest of the fields I'll put it in disabled state, read only state. Understood? So blindly will not develop the application. What is the business requirement? The user should able to update only some specific fields. So only those fields should be not editable mode. The other fields should be in what? Read only mode. So keeping this business requirement in mind, assume that we are writing the logic. So what is the logic I am writing? I am writing the logic in such a way that, assuming that the user is going to modify only name and what? Description. So out of 18 fields, I am going to modify only two fields, name and what? Description. Okay, right. This parameter is done. What is the other parameter you have to pass? Compulsory, we know when you're working with the update mapis, you have to set the values for what? Update flag parameters. So let me prepare this also. Control C. Prepare work area. Marking the fields which needs to be updated. Okay, so I'll say data w underscore what? Header data x, I'll say. Header data x type. Let me prepare this. I'll copy this once again. Done. So I'll say here, in this you can say in this parameter also, you must pass the product ID, which is character of 10. The rest of the fields are what? Character of 1. So I need to pass the product ID. Done. So I need to pass the product ID, and other fields whichever you are modifying should be marked to what? X, should be set to what? X. So W underscore what? Header data X, header data X hyphen what? Product underscore ID is equal to W underscore entity hyphen what? Product ID. Done. Then W underscore header data X, header data X hyphen name equal to X. W underscore header data X hyphen what? Description. I'll modify it. Description equal to what? X. Okay, done. So description equal to X. I prepared what? Modified fields. That's all. So once the necessary parameters are ready, we have to call what? The BAPI function module. Call the BAPI function module to update what? Product details. So I'll just go to pattern. I'll call that function. Sorry, I'll call that function module BAPI underscore EPM underscore product underscore what? Change. BAPI underscore EPM underscore product ID. I need to prepare pass the work area. Na? What is the work area I prepared? W underscore what? Product underscore ID is the work area. And then this also work area. What is that? W underscore what? Header data. W underscore header data. Excuse me. Then I'll say W underscore header data. W underscore header data hyphen. Sorry, not here. Sorry, where we are was header data X na. W underscore what? Header data X. That's all. The other parameters are not required for me. So I'm just calling the function model and if and method. Let me save it. Check for the syntax error. Save it. Check for the syntax error. Done. So I'm just preparing there is nothing great in this logic. Simple main thing is I should know what is the parameter which is going to carry the input content, the HTTP request content. So what is the parameter which is going to carry that content? IO underscore data underscore provider, which is the object of an interface. In this interface, we have a method called as read underscore entry data. Okay, when I call that method, it returns your entity information, which you are sending as a HTTP request content. So done. And then afterwards, I'm preparing the necessary parameters. I'm just calling the function module. So let me execute this, activate this first. Activate this. One second, please. I'll just take a call. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'll just
This conference will now be recorded.
right. Okay, so I think it's very simple here. Let me activate this. And it's activated. That's all. Okay, it's activated. Let me go back. Activate your data provider extension class. Let me regenerate the runtime artifacts. Now the important thing is how to test it. Right, so it's the same as that of create only. So let me right click on this. I'll say maintain. Okay, so here I'll go to SAP Gateway Client. Done. So entity set. I'll choose product set. First, let me query. Let me query for all the products. I'm querying for all the products. Hello. Done. So I got all the products. Let me take one product randomly. So I'll take a product this one HT-1010. HT-1010 is a product. So I'll take this Here I'll say HP hyphen 1010 done. Let me execute this. So I'm querying for a specific product. Done. So I got the data. 1 second please. Yeah, I got the data. I got this particular existing product details. Now what you have to do, how do you update? We need to copy this response as a request. So I'll click on the button what use as request. Done. Hello. Yeah, I got the response copied as what request. Okay, I got the response copied as request. Okay, so now what I have to do, I'll modify the non-key properties. What is the logic I wrote? I wrote the logic to update what? Name and what? Description. So here you can see what is the name available here? Notebook Professional 15. 1 second. Yeah, Ventesh, what is the doubt? I'll come back to your question, Ventesh. Okay, let me complete this. Right, so I got the data of what existing product. What is the logic I wrote? I wrote the logic to modify what? Non-key properties. Okay, so what is the two properties I have to modify? Name and what? Description. So here I'll modify the name as 15 is there. Na? For my convenience, I'll change the name as something MOD. Something just to identify that it has been modified. Name, and what is the other field I need to modify? Description. Na? What is the description here? Notebook Professional 15 with so and so. Here also I'll just add some entry like what? More. So assume that this is my modified data. Okay, assume that this is a modified data. So what are the two fields are modified? Name and description. Then what you have to do, see the URL. If you are updating it manually, how do you use the update statement? You will compare with what? Key field. Similarly, here I modified these two fields name and description. You must pass what? You must pass the key field value as what? Input in the URL. You must pass the key field as input in the URL, and then what you have to do is choose the HTTP method as what? Put. Choose the HTTP method as what? Put. Okay, done. I'll say what? Execute. I'll choose the put method here. I'll click on what? Execute. So when I click on execute, I'll say hello. Done. So I got some response 204 yes, status code 204. I didn't got any response. I'll just get something like this. Okay, done. So it might have modified. Okay, how do you confirm it? Again, let me query for that particular product and let me check whether it is modified or not. 1 second, please. I have to switch on my laptop charging. Just hold on. Yeah. So let me query for that particular product. What is that product ID? HT-1010, I think. Done. Okay, HT-1010. Okay, I'm querying for that. What is the HTTP method I have to choose? Get method only. Let me execute. Done. So I got that particular product. Good. You can see the name here. What is that? I got MOD. In the description also I gave MOD. Na? So it means what? It has been what? Successfully modified. Okay. Let me show it once again. First, let me query for all the products so that I can identify one product ID. Done. So I would get all the product IDs. Let me take one product ID randomly, some product ID. Okay, I'll take this. What is this? 1037 is the product ID. 1037. So what we have to do in the URL, first query for the product ht-1037. Done. ht-1037. Execute that. Right. I'll get that particular specific product details. Yes, I got the specific product details. Okay, now what I have to do, I have to copy this response as what? Request. I'll click on the button what? Use as request. Done. Hello. Right, I got the response copied as what? Request. So what is the logic I wrote? I wrote the logic to modify name and what? Description. So what I'll do here, I'll just scroll down. Here name is there, flat Excel is there. Okay. So I'll say XLS 1.0 something. I'm giving some name. Okay, Excel 1 I'll say, and this description also optimum Excel I resolution. Some modification I'm doing. Done. Then in the URL, what you have to do? You have to give the product ID. See here, you have to give the product ID. So what is the meaning here? We are going to modify only one record at a time. We are going to modify only one record at a time. Keep that in mind. Okay, I'm passing the product ID. I'll choose what? Put method. What is the HTTP method I have to use? Put method. Okay, let me execute now. Then it might have been successfully modified. Done. So now how do you confirm? Choose what? Get method. Query for the same product. Execute this. I would get that particular product details with modified data. Then scroll down. Yeah, name you can see. I got Excel 1. Earlier it was only Excel. Then in the description I added what? Excel. So the data has been what? Successfully modified. Understood. So the understanding should be we are focusing as of now only on the crude operations. Okay, so for that there are some 5 dedicated steps which are given by what? The tool itself. Okay, this is for reading single record. This is for reading what? Multiple records. Okay, and this is for deleting a specific record. This is for deleting a specific record. This is for creating a single record, and this is for updating what? A single record at a time, and this is for updating a single record at a time. Okay, so what are the 5 steps which are given by SAP? Okay, create, delete and update always, and this get entity also will always deal with what? Single record at a time. Okay, get entity set is for what? Reading what? Multiple records. Okay, so keep that in mind. Yeah, Ventesh, now what is the doubt? Hmm. Okay, so for your question, the answer is that's what I told now. Create stub is for using for only what? Creating only one record. This is for deleting only what? One record. This is for updating only what? One record. Okay. So if you want that kind of requirement, it is not possible through this crude operations. There is something called as, I think already I told in the last week also. There is something called as function import. There's something called as function import. By using this function import, we can write the logic manually, which cannot be performed using what? Normal crude operations. Okay, so if you want to deal with more than one record, okay, if you want to create multiple records at a time, if you want to update multiple records at a time, if you want to delete multiple records at a time, it is not possible through the normal CRUD operations. It is very much possible through a concept called as function imports. Venkatesh, is it clear? Whether it is Excel or whatever it is, if it is more than one record, it is not possible through what? Normal stub operations. You must go for a separate logic for that using what? Function import. For creating new records, for creating more than one record, or for updating more than one record, or for deleting more than one record, we have to use a function import concept only. See, first forget about Excel, all those things. What is that I told? These stub operations, these stubs, what are given by SAP. Okay, what are the stubs given by SAP? These stubs are used for what? Performing what? CRUD operation. So try to understand that sentence. Okay, these stubs, what are the 5 stubs SAP has given? They are used for performing what? CRUD operation. So when I say CRUD operations, here C is there. C means what? For what? Create. How many records? Only one record at a time. Only one record. Okay, and read. This is for reading what? One record or what? Multi records. We have implemented that. Then we have what? U. This is for what? Update. Okay, updating how many records? Only one record. And delete. This also is for deleting only what? One record. If you want to deal with what? More than one operations, either for creating, updating, or deleting, it is not possible through the stubs. It is possible through something called a function import. See, first of all, remember here, Venkatesh, you have to think technically. We are technical persons. Okay, so try to understand this. How can you click 20 times? How can you click 20 times here? At a time, how many records will be displayed here when you are querying for a particular record? Just observe here. When I say maintain, okay, here I'll say allow entity sets. Here I'll say what? HT-1037. Okay, for example, okay, I'll say execute. Okay, so in my response section, this entire information is how many records? Only one record, na? Only one record. Okay, done. Now, when I say use as request, this entire thing will be copied to what? Request. So in the request section, how many records information here? Only one record information. Okay, so we are passing it. Now what you are saying is you want to click the 20 times. Okay, assume that and I'll query for what? Multiple records. Okay, so I got multiple records in my response. I'll click on this use as request. So what happens? The entire response will take some time. Entire response is copied to what? Request. So how many records are there here? Many records are there. Okay, so try to understand technically. So you are going to modify a record in this, but when you are trying to use the put method, what is the signature of the put method? Compulsory you have to pass what? Compulsory you have to pass what? Product ID. Na? That's what I am trying to say here. How do we use update statement? You'll compare with what? Key field. So here also, according to that what put method, compulsory you have to pass what? Key property. So even though you might have modified multiple records here, what is the input you have to give here for put method? You have to use what? That HT-1037 and use the put method. So when you execute, it will check for only this record. Na? Is it clear, Ventesh? The signature of the put method is it always expects what? The key property value. When you are reading for a single record, what is the input you have to pass? The key property value. So compulsory you have to pass the product ID. Na? So what I'm trying to say is in the request section we have many records. Okay, assume that you have modified many records here. But when you are trying to execute the put method, you must pass what? The key property. Na? So it will refer to only that particular record. That's all. That is the concept here. So what I am trying to say is it is not possible. It is not possible to perform your requirement through these CRUD operations. I mean to say through the steps. It is very much possible through what? Function import. So that's why SAP has given this concept called as function imports. We can implement function imports whenever you want to implement the operations which is not possible through normal CRUD operations. In that cases, we'll go for what? Function import. So let me try to open the documentation if available. One second. Okay, it is. You can see it. Yeah, you can see the point here. Function imports can be used whenever the given requirement does not fit into what? The CRUD operations. That does not fit into the CRUD operation means if you are unable to implement that requirement using normal CRUD operation, then you have to go for what? Function imports. Okay, they are defined at service level and you can have n number of what? Function imports. So you may have n number of requirements. Each requirement I can put it in a separate function exit, function import, or you can club all the requirements in a one function import also. So those scenarios will come in the coming sessions. So I'm done with the all the CRUD operations. All the CRUD operations are done. All the steps are completed. Tomorrow onwards, what we'll do is we'll see how to work with the service which contains multiple key properties, and so far we have created this entity properties manually. Na? Every time it may not be possible, or every time I may not create the entity by what? Creating the properties manually. I should able to import it from a BATI. I should able to import it from a DDIC structure. So all those concepts will come from tomorrow onwards. Means we'll focus mainly on these things. Okay, function import. So you can see where the import option, data model from file. So uh, just now in Excel we have some record. So data model from file, DDAC structure from DAPIs, from search, all these options we'll try to discuss from tomorrow onwards. Okay, and we'll see how to create the service with multiple entities, how to link them. We have foreign key relationship in our normal app. Here we have something called as associations. Okay, association check. So all these options we'll be discussing from tomorrow onwards. Okay, and I got some mails that some of you are unable to open the recordings. Anyone try to open the recordings? Everyone is able to open that, or any issue is there in opening the recordings? Anyone try to open? Ravi, Rajendra, Surender, I have shared it with everyone. If you have any problem in the opening the recording, mail me. I'll reply to that. Sometime, if I upload it now, it may take some 2-3 hours time for you to open. It may not open it. It has to buffer. So just leave some 2-3 hours and then try to open. Sometimes you may get another saying that still processing the video. So it means that it is not yet buffered. So wait for some time. Okay, I've shared the yesterday's recording also. So this recording and the notes I'll share it today. Done? Any questions?
Sir, I have not received any documents yesterday class.
No, no, yesterday I have not shared the document, Bashish. Only recording I've shared.
No, I have not received any video.
No, I've shared the recording also yesterday. I have
So,
shared.
but I'm not.
Might be I have not sent the mail, but I have shared the recording with everyone. Otherwise, also I'll share it once again. If you don't get it, I'll share it once again. Not an issue. Okay. Because I'm having other class now, you can call me after 3 p.m. Between 3 to 6, you can call me. Okay. Yeah.
हेलो
Yeah,
हेलो।
Devashish, bolo.
हाँ सर, एक्चुअली क्या है कि फ्रंट एंड के साथ एक ओडाटा का कैसे मैप होगा ना, थोड़ा एक एग्जांपल देख के ना, मतलब थोड़ा सा हम लोग को पूरा डाउट क्लियर हो जाएगा। हम कैसे यूआरएल जाएगा, मतलब क्या एक
Okay,
बैकएंड से।
okay. Yeah, I understood. So what I'll do is, if possible, tomorrow only. One second. Do we have Eclipse in this system? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll try to show it tomorrow only, Devashi, if possible. Okay. I require
ओके
Eclipse for that. This server doesn't have. I'll take other server, no problem. So I'll show you one front end application. So most of you doesn't know how to develop that front end application. So what I'll do is I'll take an existing program. Okay, so because we don't know that UI5 framework, already I'll take the project which is already created in other batches. I'll try to open that and I'll show you how to consume that particular OData service in the front end system. If possible, I'll try to show tomorrow only. Otherwise, day
ओके
after tomorrow. Okay.
ओके ओके, थैंक यू सर।
Yeah. Chalo, then. So I'll wind off. We'll continue tomorrow.